You are listening to Danny on What the Heck Podcast. This is the place where I share my experience, knowledge and skills. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever takes your pleasure. Now, I've got a whole array of things. I haven't done a podcast for a long time, and I realised the other day I have a fan club. So I'd like to say a special hello to Shane Wild from Queenstown. And he said he finds my podcast inspirational. So in saying that, I'm not trying to inspire you to do something. And a lot of my stories are really my personal journey about the way we need to mould and adapt our business life and our personal life and how to stay focused. And hopefully that does give you some inspirational by listening to my podcast. So first of all, I would like to play you a video. Now, just for the tech heads now, I don't know if you've heard of a podcast called Podbean, and that's really cool. So I'm actually doing some things different at the moment. So I'm recording the show on a live talkback kind of like podcast, and then I'm also recording this as a video which I will upload to my YouTube channel, and then I'm using the sound audio that I'm doing, which will be uploaded to podcast.theheck.com. And that will enable me to give myself 3 different bits of content that I can chop up. And also I'm doing this live to a certain degree. So let's get started. So first of all, I'd like to tell you about myself, because that's what you do when you have your own podcast. And I'll let you listen to a 3-minute and 21-minute talk about my life as dyslexia. Here we go. So when you hear the word dyslexia, what do you think of? People not being able to read and write properly, maybe spelling words back to front. Well, hopefully you don't think people who can't spell are stupid. But I grew up thinking I was stupid going through the school system. However, when I got older, I had great joy in realising that there was a lot of people who had dyslexia that were also very clever, such as John Lennon, Nigel Kennedy, Walt Disney, Tommy Hilfiger, Einstein, Richard Branson, just to name a few. So I'm not here today to convince you I'm not stupid. I just wanted to give people a little bit more insight into what dyslexia actually is. So I'm 50 at the moment, and would you believe I don't actually know the alphabet? I don't know the difference between a verb and a noun, and I don't even know the months of the year. So to give you an example of how what that means, if you said to me you were going away on a holiday in June, I wouldn't know how far away that was. I wouldn't be able to gauge that distance. So if you told me that June is the 6th month of the year, then I'd be able to know that we're currently in the 3rd month and there's a distance of 3 months, and I'd break that down. So everything I have to translate it to understand. So it's always a battle. But fortunately enough, I do know the days of the week, and you might think that's good. But today, I do not know how to spell Wednesday or Saturday with confidence. And I use a keyboard, I can do it, but when it comes to writing it down with pen and paper, you wouldn't be able to read my writing. So at the age of 23, I decided to go get some professional help. I went along to Spelt Canterbury, and they did a whole lot of tests over a couple of hours, and they come back to me and they said, "Hey Danny, you have a reading age of a 9.3-year-old. I thought that was quite good at the time. And I said, "Well, what do you do about this?" And they said, "What you could do, you could hire a personal teacher and maybe learn how to read and write." So I did that for a year, 2 times a week. I would go along to my reading and writing teacher, and over a 12-month period, with my hand on my heart, I can actually say I learnt nothing. It was a total waste of time. It wasn't until 1993 when an ex-employer gave me a parting gift, and he gave me a digital diary. And with this digital diary, I finally found a way to remember and retain information I had learned. And I could put everyone's phone numbers and all their details in this device. So as technology has evolved, I really have embraced technology. And this 4-minute speech that I've got here, when I wrote this yesterday, I used voice recognition software and spoke the words to the computer. And this speech, I've actually given this quite a few times, and I can actually save it forever. It's better than the human memory, to be honest. So dyslexia is often talked about as a gift. And I think the real difference I've found is people with dyslexia have to find new inventive ways to do things. So the purpose of this little wee video was actually to challenge you as the educated person to stop using your educated habits and find new ways to do things. And if you need a hand, you can ask Danny DeHeck, because I'm quite clever at that stuff.
So there you go. I had that video done by a guy called Pablo, who's called Take 5 Media. Take5.co.nz is his website address, and my other Podbean service probably didn't hear the audio, so I'll dub that in later in case you're wondering why there was a big blank in the show. But basically that video, I've been rehearsing that for about 5 years to be able to nail a 3-minute and 41-second speech. And ironically, when Pablo was helping me do some promotion for Elite 6, which is my business networking company, he had to hold the iPad up right beside the camera with the words that I'd written down that I wanted to say. And there's about 10 sentences, and I would listen to those words, and then I'd try to repeat what I read, what I looked at. Before he put the iPad down, I would forget the words. So after rehearsing for about an hour, we finally got a whole lot of takes that he could use and put together a promotional video for Elite 6, my business networking company. And then I said, while I'm all mic'd up, do you mind if I read this speech? Because I'm giving a speech tonight at some personal training I was doing with David Clarkson from Dynamic Communications. And I had to prepare a speech, and I've said I've actually done a 50-minute speech on dyslexia and how I've overcome it in my life and used technology and blah, blah, blah. And then I've just summarised everything I've been trying to give out for the last 5 years into this speech. And he said, yeah, sure. So I went and grabbed it, sat down in front of the mic, and I held the paper in my hand. If you see my video, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I just read it perfectly and got every word and managed to describe exactly how dyslexia and what it means in my life and how hard I have to fight to communicate with people. Then I look back at my life and I think, I really have embraced change, and I'm very nimble, I'm swift, I can change a lot, and I often have to. As I said in some of my other podcasts, I was brought up in quite a religious family, and I got discommunicated when I was about 23, so I had to start over. I had a divorce at the age of 40, like a lot of us do, but the 24 hours after my wife said she wanted a divorce, I had an appendix that burst on the operating table and got infected, and I nearly died. And then my business, that was a really healthy business, turned around, I lost it and had to find some other things. It's taken me 10 years to sort of get myself back on my feet as such, and I've had a bit of a hard road to get that right. But I've never given up. Now, most of the content that's out there on the internet at the moment is all about COVID-19 and the effects, and being clever and smart with business and how to retain your clients, and I kind of like sick of hearing about it, really. And then because we do a lot of talking at my business networking meetings, a lot of the businesses are sort of saying, we're in a recession now, and I go, are we? And they go, yes. And I said, is that because the media tells you so? And they go, yes. And I said, well, I reckon that if you listen to Zig Ziglar, he says that he did a conference in front of, I've forgotten it, maybe 1,500, 2,000 people, whatever it was. And he said, did you know that we're in a recession, people? And put your hand up if you know that you're in a recession. And then he said, keep your hand up if you've had the best year in business that you've ever had. And he said that 70% of people keep their hand up. So just because we're in a recession or things aren't going the way we want, because we're entrepreneurial people, I'm hoping you are the entrepreneurial people that are listening to my talkback, because you're the special ones, you're the superheroes, you're the soldiers. So what I'm trying to say is, I've got to stop saying it sounds terrible when you listen to it back, so if you hear me say tell me. What I'm suggesting, well, actually I gave a good illustration, I'd like to see if I can explain it on a podcast to you guys, and that was, imagine that business, the economy, is a massive river. And for years, the river's been used to transport goods up and down the river. and a lot of businesses travel on different vessels. Some are like big, massive passenger ferries, and others are maybe a jet ski. Some people may swim. Other people might canoe. Some people might like, I don't know, let's say kite surfing. And you've got all this activity on the river. And then you've got the people that purchase stuff from the river people, the business people, and they're on the side of the banks. And that's our customers, so to speak. But at the moment, a lot of the business is changing. Those big companies that carry, thousands of people or hundreds of people along, they can't change quickly. They, even to pull up those boats and slow them down, it just takes, I think an oil tanker, for example, takes 7 kilometres to come to a halt in the open sea. So you can imagine right now there's a lot of those big companies that they can't afford to make changes quickly. And the time it takes is often what kills them really quickly. But being a small business person, like maybe you're a jet skier or maybe you're in a jet boat and you're cruising around the rapids. Now the water, the business, the economy, the water goes out of the river quite a lot. And now there's more rocks and you need more movability. So you need to really think about how you're going to navigate the river. Instead of being, say you're a bit of an adventurer, which a lot of us entrepreneurial people are, you think about this, that we can't carry on necessarily doing the same things and getting the same old results, because that's what will happen. So we might need to move from the middle of the river over to the side. And there's disadvantages and advantages. So I was just asking people to think about, what sort of vessel are you? Are you, one of those big ships with lots of people on it? Or are you, a small boat carrying 6 or 7 people? And we need to think, how can we move quickly and swiftly and make good decisions? And if you sit still, you'll go with the flow of the river. But when you need to make your way back up that river, you need power, you need petrol, you need to know how to keep your tanks full. And that's what a lot of podcasts and a lot of audiobooks, especially the things I listen to, actually help me with. So I just wanted to sort of use that as an example. So when I was looking at my business networking company, now I'm passionate about connecting people and getting them together. So here I am, I've got a business networking company which I'm hanging on to of dear life, and I spent 8 years of my life trying to come up with systems and processes that work. And the goal was really to get business people together. And when COVID come along, here we are, we had 8 meetings that used to meet from 7:30, 9:30 through to Tuesday to Friday. And they're all in different locations and we had different groups of people. Now, if I hadn't made changes a year and a half earlier, it would have even made it harder for me to implement the changes that I have had to quite quickly. So if people who are watching me on the river aren't used to Danny being all over the place and know that next week will be different to this week, then they would be surprised. So if my passenger ferry all of a sudden started navigating through the rapids, people would freak out. But because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a bit of not a high flyer, not really, but somebody who's an adventurer, people know me, then they're used to me making lots of changes and they're along for the ride. So when COVID happened, I had to switch this face-to-face business networking company to a Zoom meeting-based get-together support network. So instantly I thought I'd set up a base in the office and I got all this studio gear ready to go. And then within a week we had to go into lockdown, so I carted it all back home and we were running it off the sofa, all those sort of things that we all had to do. However, we're running 15 meetings a week, 3 meetings a week, one at 7:30, one at 9:30, and then one at 3 o'clock. And then that was 15 meetings and had the weekends off. But eventually what I was doing is I was providing a place for people who were in shock, didn't know where to turn with their business, and I was a router of information. And everyone was there to help everyone out, and it was quite good. But then I watched the life drain out of people. This wasn't going to sustain, networking as such. And people really wanted that human interaction. And then I noticed there was a lot of other things that come along into Elite 6. For example, if somebody's in front of your computer and they're talking to you having a video, it's very hard to keep them. Go away, Siri.
I'm on it. You'll have to continue in one of these apps. Tap the one.
Boy, that's noisy. You'll have to, so what was I saying? they're trying to keep people engaged and focused when they're in front of their computer, when they could be listening and doing their emails in the background, was my next obstacle. So eventually, after about 2 weeks of doing this, I realised it's probably not going to sustain. However, I started looking at Elite Six and thinking, I don't want to go back to cafes and bars. I'll say never, but never say never. But I don't think it was right. So here's an opportunity for me to remould Elite Six into the company I want. And then I'm realising that all of a sudden people don't want just Zoom meetings. So now what we're doing is we're running 4 Zoom meetings a week instead of 15. And we have actually ran one face-to-face meeting. Now we're allowed back together. If you listen to this overseas, we don't actually currently have any COVID in New Zealand that isn't under quarantine. So we're very, very lucky. And now I'm running a face-to-face meeting, and people are telling me that the time isn't ideal for them. And I've lost half my members. But then I've said, well, actually, it wasn't working the way it was going. I was tired of going to cafes and hoping that everyone would be there. On the way to these cafes, I'd get an apology. I can't make it today. Oh, I've slept in, or I forgot it was Thursday, or all sorts of things. And that was quite hard to stay focused. So it wasn't working. So then what I thought about it, and I've revamped Elite Six a lot. And what I've done is I've got some simple things. I have a list of all our meetings where people need to now log into the website. So if I'm using Zoom, I need to have a encrypted URL people can click on. So now I need a place, because we were getting bombed because there's malicious people on the internet all the time. So I needed to create a place where people needed to log in and access the links. Next barrier, people didn't know how to log into a website. They didn't know how to reset their password. They didn't know they had a username. And then I realised that a lot of people out there are really struggling with technology. But at the time of trying to educate 120 people how to log into a website, and 90% of them are struggling just to log in and don't know how to reset their password, I've got another obstacle to contend with. So after battling that, I lost about 15 members just because they got frustrated with technology. And a lot of people are still part of my network. I haven't seen them for 3 or 4 months. They're still paying me, but they don't like the new format, but they haven't given it a go. Now, all the ones that have embraced technology and have given it a go, one of my favourites told me that he doesn't like the new format. And I said, well, you suggest we go back to cafes and meet face-to-face. Well, I like that, and I get 25% of my business from Elite Six, and I'm going to really struggle if you don't do that. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I said, well, trust me, I know what I'm doing. And at the moment, have you ever thought that you can use Zoom to build up relationships with people, and you might need to employ different tactics? So 2 or 3 weeks ago, he said to me, I've actually got 3 new clients, and I've done them all over Zoom. And it just took a couple of months for him to sort of get his momentum going, but he had to embrace change. He had to be open-minded. He had to have that grit where he's going to carry on even if he didn't believe in it. So anyway, so we've set up meetings. So we've got one face-to-face meeting. Then I thought, why don't we just have one big Elite Six meeting? And then he goes, and then I said, why can't we have 50 people or 100 people in a room? And then we'll find a place that will accommodate us. And the reason why is because people don't like other people in the same industry quite a lot. I found that out. But fortunately, a year and a half ago, because people knew what type of person I were, I did away with the idea of having one industry in each group. And if people can't handle having two real estate agents or 2 mortgage brokers or in the same room, then they're not the people for my business networking. And then I need to define a common interest that we had, and we're all people in business, all helping each other. Now, 40% of a business is actually all about administration, so that's something we've got in common. And we all have to know how to market ourselves, so that's something else that we have in common. So this morning at Elite Six, I said to them, what I'm suggesting that we do is when people come along to Elite Six, we're going to make things more impromptu. So last week we actually went back to where we get our name from, and I broke them into 2 groups of 6, or 2 groups of 7, but they couldn't count. And then each person gets to talk for 5 minutes each. And that's really important, because that was the heart of Elite Six. It's the most important thing that is our IP. Is we've done that for years, and that's always been important. So this week when they come along, I said we're going to be doing something different today. And I said that we're going to start up a business selling toothpicks. Yes, toothpicks. And I said, we've got a budget of $10,000. I need a brand. I need a slogan. I need a marketing campaign. I need a pricing strategy. I need to know who your suppliers are. I want to know how you're going to distribute the goods. And I want to know your niche. And I also want to know people that you're going to partner with. And I thought, I'll see how this goes, this conversation goes. So now somebody said, well, didn't Candy Floss make toothpicks redundant? And I said, oh, yeah. But what about when you go out to a caterer and he's got food on the plate and they've got toothpicks in them? Oh, yeah, caterers use toothpicks. And I said, who else use caterers? Who else use toothpicks? And then we named a few different industries. We talked about, like having a niche, like a marketing strategy around it. There's 101 ways to use toothpicks. So rather than selling the toothpicks, we would come up with different marketing strategies. So I'm at home at the moment, just in case you're wondering, and I'm doing my own podcast, and my partner and her son has just turned up home. So they'll be opening the door in the background in case you wonder what that noise is. So we had a really good discussion about different ways you could market, because one day somebody woke up and they said that they would start selling toothpicks. And if you go into any supermarket, you can buy toothpicks. So somebody's already done it. But really, wouldn't it, something that costs $2 for a bunch of 100, it's amazing that somebody actually decided to do that, wouldn't you agree? But if you can sell toothpicks and you can come up with a marketing strategy of toothpicks, then what you learn from doing that and you apply it in your own business, like back with Elite 6 about a year ago, we rebranded. And when you bought a company and when you buy a company and you brand it, I've lost my train of thought now, guys. When you buy a company and you like the brand, and then you give that brand to somebody else to come up with a new concept, you hope they understand the type of business you are and what you're trying to accomplish. And after that happened, I actually got a new brand, a new look, and a new sort of swing in the step, so to speak. So I actually really enjoyed being rebranding. So my challenge to those guys is look at your own company, pretend that you're look at your own company and pretend that you're new, and rebrand yourself and reinvent yourself and embrace change. Anyway, sorry, I got a bit distracted there with people coming home. I wanted to rave on about other things. So that's my business, networking, which I love, and it looks like that business isn't that healthy at the moment. However, it is the company I wanted it to always be. I don't want it to be the biggest. I want it to be niche. I want the people in it to be good. So I changed things around quite dramatically. So if you wanted to come along to Elite 6 now, there's a process before you can come in and meet my people. Because what we used to do is we gave a 30-day free trial. People would come along, hand out all their business cards, meet everyone, done their job, and they'd leave. Now, if you want to be good at business networking, you really need to spend, you need to spend a good year or two before it works for you. And then you have a business community around you that you can share your experience, knowledge, and skills with. You can spar ideas with. You can, like I just got 3 images sent through to me from a friend of mine who's rebranding his company at the moment, and he wants my opinion on it. So I might flick them off to another guy who doesn't even know him or his business, say, what does those images tell you about this guy's company? And he might come back and go, nothing. And he goes, oh, I know exactly what he's doing. So then, because I've got a network around me, it's really powerful for the guy that's trying to make his mind up about what brand to go with. So anyway, so what I've done now is I've made it that people want to come along to Elite 6, they need to request an invite. It's free. And then I will ring them up. I will use all my other tactics to find out who they are and what they do. Then if they want to do a demo, which we used to give away free, now we charge $99 plus GST for a 30-day demo. And that $99 can go towards a membership. So I've created 2 memberships because I want to take this New Zealand wide now. I've got 4 members so far. You've got to start small. And then a full membership basically gives my Christchurch people who are in my hometown the full array of what Elite 6 has to offer. So I had to come up with 2 different prices. So for the online membership, $29.50 a month. It's not that much. And for full membership, twice the price, $59 a month. And then I thought, well, I have other things that people want. So I have a business directory listing. It's only $15 a month. So we'll list anyone's website, their about them and about their business page on our membership area. So I've had to rename Elite Six's, where is Elite Six gone? It's disappeared. So if I've had to rename Elite Six's membership directory to just a directory. So years ago I used to have a big directory and people used to list their websites. And that's been a good move because now it doesn't limit me for just having the members area. But Joe Blogs down the road or anyone, as long as it's in our flavour, can list their business on Elite Six. So if you look at Dean from Skilled Electrical, so Dean has a profile, has his logo at the top, and then it's got all his contact details, a little bit about Dean and what he's passionate about, and then obviously Skilled Electrical and a location where he is. So that's how that works. And then I thought, well, blogs, if people are full members, they can publish their blogs. And now we're going to start doing workshops. So because a lot of people I found out couldn't even log into a website, there's a real big deficiency with people's internet skills. So with people who are full members, they'll have access to a limited amount of our workshops. And obviously our podcast is our think tank meeting. So I've basically rebranded the whole company just to, really... I've actually branded the company around the exact type of company I want it to be. And now going forward, when I purchased Elite Six back 8 years ago, I had 36 members, and we've got about 60 members at the moment. But the company's groomed and set up the way I want it. And when we started to lose our way and was doing 15 meetings a week, a friend of mine, I said to him, I'm losing the plot. I don't really know how to keep people engaged. He said, what was working with the old system? And he said, adapt the old system to the new format. So I went back to doing our PowerPoint presentations and making people on a video conference watch a PowerPoint. And that gave us the structure back. We did some really cool things. Instead of having speakers that come along, and it was hard to arrange, we had I have 107 impromptu questions that I would ask business people, and I'd pick somebody random who was in attendance, and I'd say, right, 12 questions, and they wouldn't know what question they're about to get asked impromptu. So when we went back to the open format on Zoom, I would just ask a question. I'd say, Jim, answer this question, and then Mark, answer this question, and go around the room, and that would get people engaged. So everyone who was doing their emails were concerned that they might be next. So if they were doing their emails, they would go, oh, sorry, didn't hear what you said. And then I felt like, well, what's the point of me doing this if you can't give me an hour of your time a week? And other things we did that changed is we made it that rather than segregating everyone, that any member can go to any meeting. So potentially you could get to 5 meetings a week. My point really is I've just changed that company around for the better. It may not be what I want it to be financially, and that's okay. But the big one is my Danny De Heck brand. Used to have a website called danny.co.nz, and that was just my personal brand that one day I was going to build. So if you embrace change, what I did, I had this travel network. It was called New Zealand's Information Network. And I literally started it by hitchhiking around New Zealand, telling people I was New Zealand's leading internet consultant. And what I would do is I'd walk into an accommodation provider, because I was the easy target at the time. I'd take a photo of the motel, the outside, walk into the reception area and I just took your photo with this digital camera. And it would be one of the first digital cameras that actually come out. And they would be overwhelmed with the technology. And they said, what do you actually do? And I said, well, I'm a mobile internet consultant. Oh, I haven't heard of one of those before. So I happen to be New Zealand's leading internet consultant. And I'd show them the picture, and I'd say, if you give me your brochure, I'll take pictures. We'll put together a digital version of your brochure called a web page. It costs you $300, and then I charge $30 a month to keep it live on the internet. And they'd say, oh, yeah, okay. And I got to the stage where I'd actually turn up in motels And for accommodation, I'd be on the road a couple of weeks, 3 weeks at a time, and they'd say, "What do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm not going to tell you what I do because you want to talk about it, and I'm tired and I've been talking all day long." "Oh, come on, tell me what you do." And, "Oh, no. And I had 3 motels I remember actually got as clients simply because I was trying not to talk about what I was doing. Imagine having a business like that today. But now you've got Tom, Dick and Harry going after their business, and it's all website design competition. But eventually I built up this business called, well, all my clients were like-minded, so I started a business called New Zealand's Information Network. And it consists of around about 1,000 blogs of all things New Zealand. Accommodation, things to do, places to go, anything from kayaking, golfing locations, hunting, diving, anything. So I had a travel writer that used to write them. My wife at the time used to be a really good writer, so she used to write for the company. She used to be a copywriter. And at the end of it, I had this travel resource, which was actually 15,000 pages of information because every website I had used to be built into it. So it was like a large mall. And people would criticise me because all my shops looked the same, just like you would if you went into a mall. And you're using the same cash register system. And because we'd use a lot of the same features from one site to the other, I'd basically just take down the sign and put up the rental car sign and fit out that shop. And the foot traffic we were getting, which is astronomical now when I think back, was 25,000 people a day would land on my website and travel to one part of my website. So let's say I had the Glacier Guiding Company. Let's say I had the Scenic Flight people and Franz Josef and Fox Glacier and the Whale Watch and Tekapo, Mount Cook. And then I had like Blackwater Rafting. I literally used to have about 100 different brand names like A to B Rental Cars, Pacific Horizon, Ace Rental Cars, Pegasus Rental Cars, Usave Rental Cars. And at one stage I had 45 different rental car brands like TUI Campers, and they used to all use my network to promote and do 99% of their internet advertising. Now for somebody to have a kind of a monopoly on it these days would be just about impossible. So Tourism Holdings would come along and buy up those companies, and then they would use their 21 people in their marketing department, and they would make Danny redundant. And over time, I couldn't compete with them, and I still don't today even go after trying to compete with people in a website design competition, because my strength is really marketing and getting your website in front of people. So even though my websites weren't pretty, they used to rank really well in search engines, they used to load lightning fast, and that used to intercept other people's website traffic. So it's quite ironic, really. But anyway, things have changed. So this big travel network, I think my best year ever, remember I'm dyslexic, was I think I had $470,000 worth of turnover, and I took home, I think it was $275 in a year, which is a great paycheck for somebody who can't read and write. So as you can imagine, that travel network was all about me trying to promote New Zealand's information network. And I think that's where it went wrong. I think what I should have done is continue the brand under my own name, danny.co.nz, which just over the lockdown I've changed it to tehek.com. And then I could have been one of these major influencers when it come to, like these travel writers or these V-bloggers. So I'm a big traveller, been to 35 countries, and I do all these videos now. And also have written a lot about my travels in New Zealand. So my partner and I, we travel around quite a bit now. And I said, why don't I use all that content that I have on New Zealand's information network and draw it back into tehek.com, and let's make ourselves travel writers. And let's put it out there to say to people that if you want us to come to your location and write about wherever you are, then we'd do that. So that's what we've been doing. We've travelled to, I think we went to Kaikoura first, then we went to, I think, Dunedin. Then we've just recently been to Naseby. We went to Tekapo, and we're just sort of gathering information. My partner's a photographer, so she's using her resources there. So now what we've done, if you scoot to the bottom of any of my websites, you'll see that we've got development by Danny Tehek Limited in association with brand photographer Motivive. And that's what we're doing. So I also changed my company from newzealandnz.co.nz Limited to Danny Tehek Limited, and I've gone back to where I shouldn't have turned my way, and that's keeping myself as the marketing guru, and also put it all under my own brand, because these influencers are doing that. And I am a bit of an influencer, so I've really been focusing. I don't know if this will be any help to you in your business, but if you go to doheck.com and you go along the top of the page, you'll see I've got Facebook, I've got Instagram, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Twitter, I've got a YouTube channel, I've got a Flickr account, I've got a Tumblr account, I think I'm saying that right, and Twitch, which is not really it's not really the sort of thing I'd recommend, but it's a place where gamers go in there and play their games live, and people can watch. I'm sort of using the platform because it's across the grain of what you should be using. And then I've got a Pinterest account. And then also what I'm doing now is I'm putting together some workshops. So I've got myself a green screen that's going to go behind me soon. And then I'm going to run a lot of workshops. So the most important thing about doing these workshops is having a way to collect money. So I've merged both my billing system down to one, and I've got a system here where I've got, if you went to danny.deheck.com, you'll see my billing system. So when you click on Elite 6, you'll see all the products and services that Elite 6 has for sale. And then when you go to Danny DeHeck, you'll see all the products and services. Now, I haven't added all my products or services, because if you do go to Danny DeHeck, you'll see under my services, I help people set up Shopify shops, WordPress. I help them with web hosting, and also do podcast hosting. Now, I don't do podcast hosting, but that is what people are searching for, because when I started my podcast, I didn't realize there's some really amazing sites out there that host those files for you, and then they link them to all the places like the iTunes store and the like. Also, video editing. So I'm using Camtasia 2020 at the moment. So if you went to my website, clicked on that, you'll see that when you click on the video editing link, it actually tells you the software that I use to do my video editing. And then what I've done is I've been able to put a button there saying free download and a trial. Now, if you go along there and click it and you decide to buy it, I'll actually get a cut from doing so. And then when you go to my services and you maybe click on royalty-free images, now if you're not very good at photography, it's something I really struggled with when I was getting my content, is finding good content. So I used to use this site called 123RF. And if you go to my website and you click on there and it says visit, it will track that it came from my website. And if you sign up and purchase any of the goods, I get a little bit of money. If you went to, what else have we got here? Podcast hosting. You'll see that I use Buzzsprout for my podcast hosting. And also I've got a couple of links of the hardware I use. So any of the hardware that I use, not all of it, but some of it, when you click on it, if you buy it, I'll get a cut. But however, with the Zoom 6 handy recorder, there's no revenue for there. But that's the sort of way I'm thinking at the moment. So, for example, I have a links page. Now, I used to charge $100 a year for people to be on my links page. So on my links page, you'll see other people listing there. So I only can assume people might want to also have their website listed there. So I've created a button that says add your site. And when you click on that site, it goes directly into my billing system, and it tells them the costs of being on that website. So from $8.33 a month, $50 setup fee, they can pay me a fee to be on there, and that's sort of how that works. So what I've sort of done is if you're on my video and you're watching this video and you look under my blog, you can see, even though it's a little wee link, you can go down to About New Zealand and you can read about New Zealand business, the cost of living, education, employment, forest parks, freshwater fisheries, government information, Great Walks, Green Camping Guide. You get the idea. Then you go to destinations. You've got South Island, and you go through to Arrowtown, Ashburton, Christchurch, Dunedin, Fox Glacier, and the North Island, same Bay, Plenty, Coromandel. And then you've got the Small Town Guide, you've got the North Island and the South Island. And I've even got some information about Australia and Tasmania, and Tasmania Great Walks. So all those blogs, I'm going to repurpose them and republish them. The content, when I have it written, I was quite smart. I said to the people that wrote it for me, please don't put prices, please do not put dates, and things that could potentially date. So if you go into my blog and you went into, say, like destinations, and you checked out the information about Christchurch, you will see that was one of the ones that wasn't that clever, because a lot of the information that Christchurch talks about was actually written before the earthquakes. So one day it will become an archive of what Christchurch was used to be like. But I haven't actually updated it. But people go, oh, how can you have that information on your website if you don't update it? My argument to that is that it still brings in traffic. And I don't know about you guys, but when you're on the search engine and you're searching for stuff, you get distracted along the way. So if I can lure people in to my website or my brand, they're going to get distracted. So that's why I've got workshops and I've got podcasts and I've got all my social media. So I've got a pretty good fitting. I'm around about 40% where I want Teheck.com to be. And now what I'm doing is I'm going through all my videos. So if you were, say, like on Teheck.com and you clicked on my video channel, this is what I've been doing that seems to be working quite well. Now this will start playing the video. So what I've done when I travelled Bangladesh over Christmas time, I did all these little wee videos, and I'm hoping to come home and put them all together as one. And then I thought, well, why don't I just upload the whole lot? They all go into drafts, videos, and I'll do that on my video channel on Facebook, and I'll do that on my video channel on YouTube. And it's going to publish the raw content. And then what I will do is, my purpose is to get people to watch my Understanding Dyslexia video, for example. And that's what I've been doing. So I'm just basically republishing my content, making sure I get into the routine of doing it at least once a day. Something fresh will go out. I repost an old blog. I share it through all my social media channels. And also I've got about 100 different videos of me traveling through Bangladesh, India and China, which I'm just going to keep throwing out there. And then when I call myself a fisherman, but when I do get a bit of bait out there that attracts a lot of fish, and let's say I find a product or one of my workshops go off, then people will check out my background and wonder who this Danny Teheck guy is, and then I'll have a history on the internet. And that's basically what I've been working on. So really am actually building my personal brand at the moment. It's my main focus. I think I have a lot to offer when it comes to teaching people how to use internet, how to... I don't really want to be that guy that people come to and go, oh, I'm going to use Danny Teheck to do my website. I want to be that guy that people come to me and they go, I'm trying to do it myself and I'm having a few hassles. And I go, well, why don't you book some of my time? I just want to know how to do this. And I'm going, well, actually, that's quite complicated. If you want to do it right, do it this way. So what I've done is I've come along and people can book. I've got bookings. And on my bookings page, I use Calendly. And if you went to calendly.com/Teheck, you'll see that people can actually book me and book my time. So if somebody wants to have a consultation with me, they can come along, they can pick a date and a time and confirm. So I had my web hosting provider who wants to have a meeting with me. So rather than me having a meeting with her at her whim, I say, can you please go along to my website and book a meeting in? And so far, I've had 3 people come along here and pay me I charge 150 Australian dollars for an hour of my time, or 30 minutes of my time, and they get to choose. And when they come along here and they say book a half an hour session with me at 9:30 in the morning, they confirm it. It asks them all the questions I want to know. What's the agenda, and also more importantly, it grabs the money off them. And then what we do with that, it all links up with Zoom. And so it sends all the links and we meet in the room. It's really, really cool. So that's what I've been doing. That's sort of been really cool. So I want to sort of get more online sort of stuff. My main focus at the moment is, if you don't know, I'm quite good at drop shipping. So I have an electronic store and I have an accessory store and I have an outdoor store. And my partner has a baking store and also a coffee lover store. And when lockdown went down, these stores just went off. And we were getting orders every 5 minutes. And we thought, oh my goodness. So then we had to come up with systems and processes to manage it. And we got behind, we had about 1,800 emails of people saying, where's my order? And because we are not stocking the products, we had to rely on the shipping companies, and it just went crazy, and it was a lot of pressure, a lot of sleepless nights, but we worked our butts off. But rather than sort of firefighting at the front end of the fire, we looked at what was causing the fire. So we implemented better systems. So if you go to, say, like NZ Electronics, you'll see that people now can search frequently asked questions. So somebody might want to know their password. If they put that in there, it will go to our knowledge base and it will come back and say account login and password. And now there will be an answer to that question. So people want to log in. And then other things they might ask, like where is their order? So by doing that, it has cut down a lot of our email correspondence. And what my big goal now is to actually make it that it's a self-help contact us service, so that we don't have to correspond with them. And then we can now keep bringing out more and more shops and find more and more products to sell people. So yeah, it's different, and it's thinking different. So I mean, what I really want to do is, when I look at these online shops that we've set up, there's a lot of work behind it, and we're actually teaching people to do like what I call side hustles. There's a really good book out there called 100 Side Hustles. I really encourage you to grab it, listen to it, and watch it. It's really, really cool. And then if you get inspired, write a blog. I just wondering if I wrote a blog. So let's say I got inspired last time I read a few books. So then what did I do? I wrote a blog about my favourite ebooks. And I've created content about things that I'm passionate about. And I don't know if I still have. No, I haven't. But in my ebooks, I did a blog and I wrote down my favourite books. And that's what I call writing about trending information, which is a different story in a different day. But anyway, I don't want to bore you. I think I've gone well over time and waffling quite a lot. I just wanted to sort of catch up and especially say hi to Shane, who's my fan, my one fan. And I'm sort of really enjoyed being able to do a blog again. It's been my goal to put one together. The idea is behind what I'm trying to get. My whole message of this podcast was really sort of saying, look at what you have got rather than what you haven't got. Look at the tools that you have in your toolkit. Don't hang on to things that you've been doing for years, like my travel network. I've had that for 20 years. It had its great days. And then I've repurposed it. And same with my business networking company. It wasn't really, I don't want to go back to bars and cafes and sit there at cafes at 7:30 in the morning hoping that everyone's going to turn up. Every time somebody sends me an apology, I can't make it today, it's negative. I've created the company that I do want it to be, and I'm looking forward to growing it and using new forms of technology. One new service which I'm really looking forward to getting going is called Focus. And Focus will be a intense session scrutinising people's businesses, looking for positive directions that they could take them and give them some guidance and give them access to a network of people who can actually help them accomplish their goals. Or it may be a person that comes along to Elite Six and says, look, I've got this idea or a concept that I want to implement. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are made redundant at the moment, and I think they'll have a little bit of money and they'll think I'm going to use that money to start my own business. I want to capture those people before they get that dream going that may not be a dream, or make sure it's structured in the right way. Just like I said at the start about the toothpicks, if you wanted to start selling toothpicks for a living, what sort of things would you need to do to sell toothpicks? Somebody's done it. So everything's possible, but is the time and energy, and more importantly, the timing right? So with Elite Six format, what we're going to do is get 6 wise people together and help somebody who comes along and record it as a, not a podcast, but record it to something that they can listen to later and give them some real positive steps. So there'll be 6 people in the room. It could be a Zoom room, so it's New Zealand wide, or face-to-face. And I'm recommending people, even if they are outside of Christchurch, to come to Christchurch for it. And we'll sit there for 3 hours and really break that business down and give them some direction to go in. It'll be only $600, so it's not going to be rocket science. And then a lot of that would be advice on where to go and what to do next. So a whole strategy around it. So that's going to be a new service for Elite Six. Danny DeHeck, what he's doing, he's now a company called Danny DeHeck Limited. And what I'm going to be doing is basically publishing as much content as I can. I'm going to be doing workshops, teaching people how to set up Shopify, how to become drop shipping. I'm going to break that course into 4 different parts. The first part is going to be actually setting up a shop, coming up with a brand name, and getting your name right. The next part will be finding trending products and how to load them into your web shop. The next one is actually how to process orders, how to market the products. And then the last part will be how to meet the customer's expectations and how to get them there. So what I'm going to do is to start the course. I've planned out, I don't know if you've ever used mind maps before, they're pretty cool. Mind maps are great for planning a strategy. I'm trying some new software, which is really cool. I've used Trello before, which is really good for planning. And there's another one called, I think, Milanote, Milanote. And Milanote come along to me, and they noticed that I'd done a blog about Trello, and Trello's like their opposition, and they gave me a free membership so that I could get a good use of the software. And I thought, well, there you go. So there's companies watching people like me who call themselves influencers, who are not really, because they're self-appointed, but they see that I'm somebody who would use their software. So by me doing a blog about Trello, another software company has come along and given me a free lifetime membership. So I've actually gone back to them and said, can I have 2 lifetime memberships? Because I want my partner, Helen, to also use it so I can interact. And then I'll do a workshop around why this product is really, really good. And just so if I didn't write the blog about Trello, I wouldn't have got that company coming to me, wanting me to talk about their product. And then I'm thinking, what other software could I do software reviews on? And then I could give introduction on how to use a software I use all the time called onepassword.com, and then I could teach people how to set that up. But then I could also have an advanced class where people, once they see the value, could pay me for the advanced class. So all these things, that's what I'm thinking of. But I'm in a pretty good place, and I hope you are too. If you are sitting behind the computer screen, it is a demon, and you really want to get in there and get the best out of it. Don't sit there and think you're stupid. When I started using the internet way back in 1994, I think Jeremy Coulter, I used to be a painter and a decorator, and I painted this internet cafe, and the guy said to me, what should we do with that room over there? And I said, what about doing one of those internet cafes? And he said, we haven't got one in Christchurch. So I asked my mate, he sold me a computer, and within about 2 months we had Christchurch's first internet cafe. And then didn't really understand much about the internet, but I just kept applying myself, keep learning, trying to understand. Eventually it was like a jigsaw puzzle. I just keep doing you do all the straight bits first, and you get all the colours and put them together, and eventually the overall picture become very clear. So if you're struggling with technology and you want a bit of a hand, then come and ask Danny. I'm good at that sort of stuff, and I can help you with it. So keep an eye on tehek.com, and please do subscribe and all that sort of stuff they tell you to do. I always don't like telling people to subscribe and add yourself to that, but do it. And also comment. Please don't sit here and watch this stuff. Don't tell me like Shane did. He finds my podcast inspirational and then doesn't put any comments. Put comments. I love those comments. They give me reason to do more stuff. All right, lovelies. Have a great day and be safe out there.